This fall has been so busy for our family. October's been crazy. And I think a lot of you are in the same boat. I was just talking with a couple of friends actually about their own experience, feeling like they're just totally in survival mode. And so I just want to take a moment to pause for all of us that are in this really busy fall and going into the busyness of November and December, and talk about some lessons that I'm learning, that some of my friends are learning, and incorporating those into our lives to make things a little bit better instead of continuing to just run completely ragged.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and this is the new way to thrive in motherhood by leaning into who you are, what you love, your unique family situation, and personal mission to create a life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you to join me in saying no to the life of the exhausted supermom, burnout, victim thinking, being pulled in so many directions, suffering through survival mode, or being lost in motherhood, and say yes to building strong families and moving forward on our greatest goals in order to create a fulfilling life that we are excited to wake up to each day and become a soaring mother. This is the Thriving in Motherhood podcast.
I want to invite you to take the free Plan a Week You Can Win training to help set yourself up for success when it comes to what you can actually accomplish this week, and also do it in a way that allows you to be totally present with your family, enjoy your kids, enjoy running your household, instead of being overwhelmed or frustrated or irritated with people for interrupting you and the things that you want to do. You can get that at the link below, the free Plan a Week You Can Win training. October and September for our family has been, I think, one of the busiest seasons that we've ever had. And I'm confident that that's the case. We are homeschooling in the morning. We've had a lot of scheduled things in the afternoon. I have physical therapy a few times a week. My kids have different activities and things with friends that we're doing. We've got a homeschool group we participate in. My husband is on a really intense work schedule right now, doing all the professor things with researching in a different city and teaching in different cities and going to conferences in different cities. So he's gone a lot. He's teaching on the weekends. He's teaching in the evenings. We had a child that had surgery. We've had some just wild stuff that the internet doesn't need to know about, but just some really wild things that have taken emotional energy and bandwidth to deal with, as well as time. And so, some things for our little family, some things for our extended family. There's just a lot going on. And as I think about this busy season, I think for me, one of the things I was reflecting on is that it just feels nonstop. And I'm an introvert. I get my energy from being alone. I've got other friends, same thing. They get their energy from being alone. And yet, that time that we maybe would take during the day to read a book or, I don't know, just relax by ourselves, it can get quickly consumed into needing to do other things so that you hit all the marks. I know for me, it's like I'll take listen to a audiobook for 10 minutes, take a 10-minute power nap, and then I've got to be up and going and making sure dinner's in the Instapot before we're jumping into, many hours of afternoon errands that have to be done or physical therapy, so that we then can get home and eat dinner so that we can be ready for the next thing. And so it just feels like this constant, I have to be at a certain place at a certain time and hit all the marks all day long. Otherwise, it can't all get done. Or what we've also noticed is that because sometimes those marks are getting messy, or because there is just so much happening during the day, bedtime is happening later and later and later. And I mean, daylight savings threw a wrench into things too, but bedtime's happening later and later and later. So we've got kids staying up later, but we still have kids that are waking up earlier. And so like that alone time is just evaporating. Also just good sleep. And so everyone's getting tired because they're up really late or they're up early. And so the days are just becoming really long, even though it's dark outside. And anyway, that's where we're coming from. And so some of these lessons that I'm learning, that I'm reflecting on, and I'm realizing both with, because we had the planner launch in October, which is so fun. I've got a stack of planners that have arrived, and I've got more coming. I ordered so many this year. It's coming in multiple shipments, but we'll get them, for those of you that pre-ordered, we'll get them coiled bound and sent to you soon. At least I hope so. That's the goal. But as I'm learning about business, and the reality is that I can't scale past what I'm currently doing until we have more systems in place so that more people can get involved and help. and or just that the systems that we have are streamlined so that time is more efficient, whether there's more people involved or not. And so I'm realizing like that's the same with our family. We are completely at capacity, and the only way to increase our capacity is to simplify what we're doing, to do it more efficiently, to have less to manage, and then develop systems and loop other people in, which is really hard to do in a busy season because you have so many things that are urgent and important coming at you all the time that it makes it really challenging to slow down and do some of those important things that are going to free up more space, literal time, energy, bandwidth. And yet, like, where do you define that? Where do you make the trade-off? Where do you invest in that? And so where I'm at right now, after probably 6 weeks of just flailing a little bit, I mean, not flailing because I'm hitting all the marks and like that feels good, but it's just like hitting those urgent things constantly. So I guess after 6 weeks of being in total urgent mode, I've kind of flipped to, okay, does it have to happen? If not, is there a system for this that I can build? And so like this week, I only had one afternoon at home. That was it. And I took the kids with me to the store and we got bins. We were calling them get ready bins. And anyway, we simplify something that I was spending like we solved a pain point. I was having troubles with kids getting hair brushed and teeth brushed and being independent and being successful. And oftentimes we turned to chore charts, but I learned like, wow, if we just create a system for this and have the environment set up correctly, boom, eradicates all need for chore charts. Everyone's happy to do it. Resistance is gone. It's no problem. And so that's where I'm really putting my energy and attention now. Anytime I have a moment, it's, okay, how can I set up the environment to make this easier for success? And how can I simplify things so that's an easy ask for somebody else to do this thing? Because we need to do that more. And as our kids get older, there's just more that we can do to loop them in on a lot of these tasks. But we don't have to overcomplicate it either. One of the things we've been having a lot of success with is I just create a whiteboard. I have a whiteboard that hangs on our wall, and I just write the list of everything that has to happen that day. That way, no one's being surprised with what's coming up. Everyone's in the loop. Makes for more willing participants. But within a 24-hour period, everyone kind of knows what to expect, and we're all moving in the same direction, even if it's fast and long. And then at the end of the day, we check it all off, feels good, erase it, and get started again for the next day. So that's kind of like the quick and dirty version, at least the communication, like communicating with your people is so important. I think like I'm working on communicating better with my own family about what needs to happen so that I'm not just in my own space and they're in their own space. And often their space looks like hanging out and playing and reading on the couch while I'm like running faster and faster and faster and realizing like, hey, wait a minute, why am I the only one doing things? And so that's where it's like just pausing long enough to slow down and communicating makes a huge difference. And so the whiteboard trick has been working really well for us. It also really helps, like I put my own things on there and it helps so the kids can say like, hey mom, can you do this? And I say, well, I actually have these things scheduled out for the day. And oftentimes they'll just say like, okay, well, if I help you, can you do this with me? I'm like, yes, absolutely. And so it's a way that we can work together more effectively. And it's not that they weren't willing to do before, they just didn't know. And honestly, I probably didn't know either. I hadn't communicated it well, even to myself. So learning to hold myself a little bit more accountable to what actually needs to happen, to get clear on it, and then also passing that down to the kids is really helpful. Like, yes, I have that in my planner, but being able to transfer it, on day by day with everybody's things has been really effective for, I don't know, just a last minute flying through the urgent system. But this has definitely like inspired me. So like having these get ready bins, which this is what the Surviving to Thriving Toolkit is going to include. There's going to be one of the modules is going to be, there's one for every stage along the 5-step path of surviving the thriving, reentry, normalizing, exploring, and thriving. But then one of the bonuses is going to be the family systems playbook. And I'm just going to have video walkthroughs of all of these systems that we have in our home and our family, not because I think it's the best system or the best way or the only way, but because it's a way, and then you don't have a blank slate, a blank slate that you're starting from. Like, it's just nice to have a starting place to know, hey, here's an idea. Let me customize it to work for my family better. Or, oh, I didn't think about having a system for that. Now I do. Because I'm just realizing, like, the only way that we're going to scale is if we have systems. And that includes as a family, because my capacity as a human can only do so much. I am limited. I'm limited. And that's another thing that I've realized, like another lesson here is communicating that with my kids. You know, we had this experience just like in the last few day, I don't know, where I had kids that really wanted one dinner and I felt like I could make another dinner. It was a quick and easy, total fast survival dinner. This other one had quite a few more steps, and they were all really excited. They really wanted to eat this thing. They had rallied everyone together. They all voted. They all agreed this was the better dinner. And I just had to say, like, sorry, I don't have capacity for that. Like, literally do not. We have to default to this easier one. And there wasn't even time to, like, sometimes it's, well, you can help me and then we can have it, but there wasn't time for that. It was just like, no, we got to do this thing. And helping them see, like, it's okay to be human. It's okay to have limitations. It's okay to not be Superwoman. It's okay that I don't run myself ragged and I preserve energy instead for doing, reading books at bedtime. That's okay. In fact, I would say that's superb and excellent. And showing that to my kids through communicating with them, has been really helpful and clarifying. And I realized, like, part of my hesitation doing that was, well, I don't know if I have the energy for the fallout or for their pushback or for their frustrations. But that's just part of being human. And so I think the more that I own my own limitations, not be a victim to them and not use it as an excuse, but for taking full responsibility for what I'm capable of and taking full responsibility for my choices. And when I take full responsibility for them, the choice becomes very clear. No, I don't have energy for this. So no, I'm not going to push myself to the brink and go into the beyond. Another really important lesson that I learned is that I have to prioritize my physical health. I'm someone that's pretty active. Like, I don't have to even think to get 10,000 steps in a day just moving around my house and doing life with my family. We go on a walk every single day before lunch or early in the morning, depending on the weather. So I have a fairly active lifestyle. However, I have committed during the month of November to do a serious weightlifting, hard bar workout every single morning. A few mornings I've done the slightly intense stretching version, but really committed to taking care of my physical health so that I also have another avenue of increased capacity. And we are on, let's see, what day is it? The 9th, 9 days in, and I have way more energy than I've had in a long time by just upping the amount of strength training that I'm doing every single day, which is wonderful. It makes a huge difference. My sleep is not where I would love for it to be. I got like 5 hours last night. It's just like I wake up, it's not intentional. So I use the time that I am awake the best I can. That doesn't mean that I'm thinking the clearest though. So I share that with you to say I'm not like crushing every level of taking care of myself physically, but the parts that I do have influence over, like exercising and going to bed at a decent time, I do that. That I'm able to get the most returns on my energy. And then I would say that takes me to one last thing is I've realized that I've kind of been living on a razor thin margin where it's like I have capacity, energy, emotional, patience, and bandwidth for all of the scheduled things, right? Like we can hit the marks, but I don't have as much bandwidth right now for anything extra that pops up. Like any surprises or emotional flare-ups or things like that. Like we're just living razor thin on that. And so I find myself like hitting, like going into the beyond myself of what I feel like I can handle at that time. And yet I am learning and becoming one of my words for this season of my life, and maybe even my word for the year, which is I am capable. I realized I'm capable of a lot more than I thought I could do. And I read this phenomenal book called Choose Your Story, Change Your Life, and Choose Your Story, Change Your Life by Kendra Hall. And she talks about how we can be really intentional with the stories that we're telling ourselves. And I think the default in these busy seasons is, well, I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, this is really hard. I don't like this, I just want to watch a movie, I just want to hang out, I just want to read a book. Now we have to rest, for sure. But I think realizing and recognizing that I'm being very intentional with reprogramming the stories. After I make it through a really full day, it's like, wow, I did that. I'm capable. I am capable of handling a day like this. And then the next day, it's like, no, I did the last one. I could do this one too. And I did that, so I can do this. And just allowing myself to layer the stories that I am capable. I have more capacity than I think I do. And that's something that I did not do in my early motherhood. Those are things that I really, really, really struggled with. I did not see that as a reality. I was very much stuck as a victim of my circumstances, wishing someone would rescue me instead of recognizing I actually have a lot of power here. I actually am capable of a lot of things and I can do this. And so that is another kind of lesson from this busy season that I'm learning is I am capable. Now, that doesn't mean I always want to live this way. That doesn't mean that I'm not trying to reprioritize. Andrew and I are having conversations. We're trying to step back and see, okay, what do we actually want our family life to look like most of the time? How can we simplify things? How can we make systems? How can we make things easier to do that we need to do? How can we automate more? All of these things. How can we work together better as a family? That is all part of the conversation, but that's going to be ongoing and evolving all the time. And so just raising my level of self-awareness from some of these things that I shared with you, I think is really empowering. It helps me recognize and point to why I feel like I've been struggling, or why it feels like surviving, or why you feel like you're floundering, or why you are just finding yourself like much less patient with people, to just slow down and recognize, okay, yeah, there's been a lot going on. And yes, there's things that are within my circle of influence that I can do to make things better. And also, compassion, grace, also learning and integrating these experiences into my identity, into who I am. And then choosing something different possibly at some point. I can't just drop it, all of these things right now. And I think we're actually in a season where we're scaling up as a family. As our kids get older, there's just more happening, which is giving me pause to realize and recognize that my focus right now really does need to be on these systems. It really does need to be on improving my communication. It really does need to be on simplifying our spaces, and also getting really clear about what we want to do and making it really easy to do those things that we want to do. So there's a lot more to say about it. This is what, a lot of what the Surviving Thriving Toolkit is going to have, which I currently am working on Win Your Week Academy, which is the thriving phase of the toolkit. So I'm building that out. And then in January, I'll be starting working out the other modules. So this is something I'm hoping to release early in 2025. Because so many of you reach out to me and like, I found your podcast. Where do I start? What do I need right now if I'm just getting started? And the reality is the answer is the toolkit. All roads point to this toolkit that currently is in my head, and on notes all over the place, and in outlines and in notebooks. And so I really do, like, with great passion, want to get to that. I just am also, I have so much happening in my regular everyday day life, and my work hours have shrunk to razor thin margins. And so that's okay. It's just the season I'm in. But I am thinking about you a lot, and trying to, as I am going through this, working on thinking about, okay, what are the principles here? How can this help you? How can we set yourself up for success as well, and create systems that will help you and translate to your own unique family life? So anyway, I hope that you have a wonderful week. I hope that this conversation helps you just become a little more self-aware, and also take time to pause and think, what have I learned? What am I learning? What stories am I telling myself? What identity am I giving myself here? How am I talking to myself through these, a hard season, a fast season, a slow season, a busy season, a bored season? And how can I use what is happening around me and the circumstances that I don't have control over to bring things and take responsibility for what I do have control over, and use it to work for your good? So I hope you have a good week, and I'll talk to you next week.
Where you are planted, watch the blossoms grow.